Beautiful. So welcome. So let's just come back to my first slide. So today we're going to be talking about and practicing and learning a little about the wisdom goddesses of yoga. So I'm aware some of you have practiced with me before, and also maybe some of you have practiced with others with the goddesses before. So I know there's going to be a large spectrum of experience in this workshop. I'm really just opening this as a forum probably to really share with you my journey with these goddesses, and hopefully each of us learns something, or for those of you who might be quite experienced, it reinforces something, or just you might be just here to really enjoy the practice. So, why is my slide not moving? There we go. So yeah, I'm Jane Malik, and I've been teaching with the wisdom goddesses for 7 years now. I've practiced yoga since I was 15, and I practiced many styles of yoga. And in my 40s, when I experienced an adrenal health crisis, so a health crisis that impacted all areas of my life, my career, my family, my health, and brought great change in my life, including training to become a yoga teacher. It was through my healing journey that I discovered the goddesses of yoga, and they've been instrumental in my healing. So part of my passion is to bring some of this wisdom and practices that I've learned to help other women. So today I'm going to just briefly talk about who the wisdom goddesses are, why we practice with them, and how to practice with them. And then we'll do some specific practices, including a meditation, a gentle tantra flow yoga practice. So again, I really invite you when we come to the body movement to make any adjustments for your physical body. So it is a gentle practice, but please make any adjustments that you might need for your comfort. I've got another participant coming in. There we go. So, and then I'm just going to briefly introduce the launch of my first 21-day devotional home yoga course, which will be with one of the goddesses. And that's coming up on the 16th of November. So if any of you are would be interested in joining, I'll just give a brief intro to that. And then hopefully we have some time for some questions and answers. So again, you could verbally ask a question if you want. You can take yourself off mute, being aware that if you do, your voice will be on the recording. You can also send your question in through chat, so if you'd like to stay more anonymous. And we'll finish with a beautiful breath meditation and mudra. So welcome, Tash, I saw you join there. If you can just keep yourself off mute and off video. We've begun the class already. So welcome, I'm glad you could make it live. So who are the wisdom goddesses of yoga? So in India, in the Tantra traditions, there are 10 power goddesses known as the Mahavidyas. They're actually pictured here along with, I've got my icon here, hopefully you can see that. There's 3 little characters in the middle who represent Shiva and Parvati, who are a god and a goddess, and Chamunda, who is a goddess who comes out of Durga's third eye in the midst of a battlefield. But the 10 goddesses, the 4 at the top, the 2 on either side in the middle, and the 4 at the bottom, are 10 Mahavidya wisdom goddesses. So some of you may know of other Indian goddesses. So there's many faces to the Indian goddesses, unlike many of our traditional religions that we think of where there's one god. There are a multitude of faces of the divine feminine. And these 10 Mahavidya goddesses represent different powers of the divine feminine. So they are often depicted with many arms and many weapons. I like to describe these weapons as symbols of our tools that are available to us. So there are 10, and I've just got some notes here just to keep me on track. So because there are 10 faces, 10 faces of the goddess, it actually shows there are so many diverse aspects to the divine feminine. Now, many of us grow up, if we're all tuning in here from Australia or from Western countries, grow up with a culture that has given us a certain definition of what it is to be feminine. So these goddesses offer us, through the mythology, the symbolism, and the practices that I'll share with you, ways for us to connect to many different sides of the feminine, and many sides that have potentially been repressed or denied by cultural norms. Yes, so that's probably enough on this slide. So when we practice with them, these goddesses represent archetypes. So if any of you are familiar with Jung, the Jungian therapies, an archetype is an energetic symbolism that often we can tap into our archetypes through mythology. And they represent different parts of our psyche and ourselves. So the goddess can personify certain energies that we may feel and we may sense, but we might not be able to name within ourselves or our worlds. And so they can actually help us to understand our own psyche as well as the world around us. And an archetype, a goddess archetype, comes alive when they are invoked and worshipped. So just simply by bringing our attention to the symbolism of a goddess, we are actually, in effect, awakening that archetype. And when we actually bring these archetypes into our movement practice, we're gifted the opportunity to embody these different archetypes. So our human imagination is so creative and powerful that just by simply bringing our attention to the goddess can have a profound effect on our own lived experience of the divine feminine. So Sally Kempton, the author of Awakening Shakti, says, "We call forth specific transformative forces within the mind and the heart, which can shift the way we see ourselves, giving us the power to see the divine qualities that we already hold." So sometimes we might approach the goddesses in a way where we're wanting to invoke, like we want those qualities. But the real beauty of these Indian goddesses is the magic that these qualities already reside within us. So they're like a mirror that when we see these external symbols, that we then practice and we can start to feel and awaken these energies within us. So again, I can talk a lot about the theory, but we'll get to the practice because that's where I think the real wisdom comes alive. So just as I'm talking, I really want to also highlight, as you're probably getting as I've already started, I'm not a traditionalist. So Tantra, there are many schools and traditions of Tantra, and some people in yoga worlds really need to and believe the need to hold to tradition. And I really honor those people and those teachers and gurus. But my approach with yoga has been coming from much more a Western woman's perspective. And my desire to reach as many women as possible, so to make these teachings as accessible as possible. So I hope I don't offend anyone in my interpretation, which I know to some could be classified as neo-tantra, where we're kind of culturally misappropriation of taking teachings. So please hear my intent that it's from the bottom of my heart and my spirit that I believe these teachings need to be accessible to as many people as possible. And then if people want to go and explore more the tradition, then please do. So just another on the why I've probably called on this. So yeah, so understanding the diverse faces. So if you think of the 10 Mahavijjas, just to give you an example, Kali is the first of the Mahavijjas. So her face is the fierce goddess of transformation and change. Tara, the second goddess, is the goddess of compassion and sacred sound. Then we have Tripuri Sundari, who's the 16-year-old, the goddess of sensuality and beauty, the goddess of the beauty of all worlds. We have Bhairavi and Durga, the warrior goddess who fights the evil forces in the world and the evil forces within our own ego. So there's many, many faces to these goddesses. So when we call on one or several in our practice, we call on these specific powers to help us in our lives. So that's when we can say, oh, maybe I'm dealing with this particular struggle. I'm really needing some self-compassion. So it may be Tara that we call in our practice. Or it may be we've got some real blockages and struggles and potential some big egos happening, whether they be external or our own ego. And then we may call on Durga and Bhairavi. And through then calling and practicing in our yoga with these goddesses, we can awaken and embody this divine, innate feminine wisdom. So how to practice with the goddesses? So this is a little list, and these are the practices that I share in my 21-day journeys. So the first key practice, which any of us can do any moment of the day, is intention. We can simply call on the energy of the goddess. And the more we understand the symbols and the different aspects of them, we only need maybe one little facet of a goddess to call in and bring into our imagination, and then just watch the magic unfold. Meditation and guided visualizations is a very useful way. I'll be demonstrating one today. And then asana and embodiment movement practice. And this is where I find it's really beautiful, when we can actually move the body, because many of the goddesses you'll notice in the iconography have come in the form of a human form. Goddess energy is far bigger than the human form. It's light and energy of the trees and energy of the sky and the earth, so the goddess energy is immense. The divine feminine is immense. But when we see it in the iconography of the goddess, we can often see body shapes. So you'll notice that many of yoga postures are goddess shapes. So when we bring our body into the shape of a goddess, that is invoking and awakening. Beautiful. So mantra are sounds and chanting. So each goddess has a seed mantra. Yantra are the mandalas. So this is an example of a mandala here that I created. It's a mandala of Durga that, again, we'll be practicing within our meditation today. Self-inquiry and shadow work is an important part of working with the goddesses. So self-inquiry is a form of meditation, but it could be journaling. It could be our own therapy work that we do, but it's really about asking the question, and the very simple but big question is, who am I? And, when we ask that question, we start to really grow our levels of consciousness and expand our sense of self from our small self to a far larger consciousness. And then rituals and pujas. So it might be a fire ceremony or simply lighting a candle. All of these ways are ways to invoke the goddess. Beautiful. So we're going to move into a guided meditation followed by a movement practice. So I'm just popping on my testing. So I'm just checking my, sorry if I went out for a moment there. I've just got my microphone on. So coming to your comfortable seated position, and I'm going to stop the screen share so you have the full view. So coming to our comfortable seated position. Now that may be sitting cross-legged on the floor. If you need to sit in a chair or on a cushion or a bolster, please do. Beautiful. Please let me know that the volume and everything's okay. I'll just check that. So as we come to our meditation, we begin to close our eyes. If you need to open your eyes at any point to see what I'm doing, please do, or just listen to the cues. So we start to breathe, or noticing our breath, breathing in through the nose and exhale through the open mouth, letting out a little sigh or a sound. This is a beautiful tantric breath, which I was taught. It's a beautiful way for our womanly body, because when we breathe in, we can really notice what we're feeling in our body. And on the exhale, you can just let go any surface tension. If there's anything you're feeling you need to express, we'll do a little bit of expression work with our asana practice today too. Beautiful. Just noticing the physical sensations in the body. Notice your sit bones grounding, your spine nice and tall, maybe lifting the shoulders up to the ears, rolling back and down. Beautiful. So we're going to do a very gentle introduction to Goddess Durga. So Durga is often depicted seated on a lion or a lioness. She has many arms, usually about 8. So you could even just stretch your arms out wide from the body. So wide arms, if you need to look at me, just stretching your arms out. Just let's imagine we are Durga. So we're seated on her lion. We have these 8 arms that are bristling with weapons. So in one arm, she may be holding a sword. In another, a discus. In another, she can often be seen holding the conch, a large shell. She's also often depicted holding a lotus flower. Mala beads, which are like rosary beads. So the sword can symbolize the sword of truth. So as you're holding a sword, or imagine you're holding a sword, do what with it you wish. You might just be curious with it. But the power of this sword, the symbol, is the symbol and access to your truth and to a divine truth. So if there's anything in your way that's blocking you access to that truth, you could imagine with that sword chopping it away. You could do it with a loving intention, or you could do it with a fierce anger. If you have anger that you need to express. So This sword can also symbolize many other things, but this is just one interpretation. Maybe just placing that sword down for a moment. And let's just come to the mala beads. Very often the beads have 108 beads where we chant a mantra 108 times to a goddess. So the mala beads, maybe just feel in and imagine what beads might mean for you, for your own spiritual practice, your devotion to yourself, your higher self, and devotion to any god or goddess or divine consciousness that's in your belief and in your experience. It doesn't need to be the goddess. It's that collective field of consciousness when we pray our prayers to the consciousness, to the goddess. Maybe placing your beads down. And let's just explore the symbol of the lotus flower. Lotus flower is a symbol of spiritual unfolding. For those of you who know the growth of a lotus flower, it needs to grow in the muddiest and shittiest waters, excuse my language, but the shittiest waters, which can be symbolic of sometimes our spiritual path, might not always be clean and simple. Sometimes it might be quite painful. And out of pain and trauma or difficult, challenging experiences can grow this most beautiful flower, the lotus flower, which all parts of the plant are edible. So maybe just feeling into this lotus flower in your hand, maybe reflecting on your spiritual growth, where you've journeyed so far. Where do you feel you are in this moment? And your pathway ahead. Beautiful. And maybe let's just let our arms rest. So there are many more tools which we can explore, but that's just a taste of some of the symbolism. And again, some symbols will be more resonant for some of us, some may be new. The practices with these goddesses are so beautiful. There's so many layers. I find my practice is different each day. There's always more to learn. Beautiful. So maybe just pausing here for a few breaths in your meditation. It's been more a guided visualization. Just maybe a few moments of silence. Just for you to feel into the energy of this goddess Durga, the warrior goddess, symbol of the empowered feminine, with so many tools to her device to deal with challenges. She's the fighter for truth and justice. Maybe just feeling into your inner Durga, your inner strength, your courage, perseverance. Beautiful. We're going to move into a flow sequence now, a movement, asana practice. So we're going to invoke the goddess Saraswati. So just as you're seated there, I'm just going to maybe just talk briefly about some of her symbolism. just so that when we come to the movement practice, we have a sense of this goddess. So Saraswati is the goddess of creativity, of knowledge, of spiritual knowledge, but also learning. So if you're a student or a teacher, she's the deity to call on. Her name means the flowing one. So when we set our intention with Saraswati and we bring our movement into a flowing asana practice, we can start to imagine our body as this flowing feminine form. She resides within predominantly the throat chakra. So this is where we, as women and men, as humans, express our creativity from. The throat chakra, many would know, is the seat of our expression. So we'll be exploring our throat in our movement. But also there's two other chakras that I like to work with Saraswati, and that's the third eye, which is the wisdom center. So this is the higher self. So rather than just maybe expressing anything, which sometimes can be important, the real wisdom with Saraswati comes when we connect to our higher self and we express our highest truth. She also resides within the sacral chakra. So this region where we as women, it's known as the yoni in Sanskrit. It's our womb, our ovaries, our creative center. So maybe just bringing your hands onto your belly, just taking a few deep breaths, so really connecting here to this sacral chakra. This for me is the seat of the creative energy, and this is where Tantra is so beautiful. Many traditional yogas focus on the higher chakras for achieving enlightenment. The beauty of Tantra is that it takes in all of the chakras, particularly the base chakras. So Durga resides in the base chakra. Saraswati, we awaken through the sacral. So these are really important regions for us as women to take care of in our lives, and particularly bring into our yoga as a source of healing and awakening the power of the feminine. This is where our power resides. It's little wonder that many religions and traditional yogas have cut us off through these base chakras, because this is where the power of the feminine resides. So that's just a little intro. So we're going to start some movement now. So from our cross-legged position, we're going to inhale, circling forward on the sit bones. Exhale, circling back and around. Inhale forward. And exhale, circling back and around. Exhale through the open mouth if you can. So feeling this circle, really noticing the sit bones grounding to the earth. And you might want to notice as you exhale, circling back and around the lower back region. Really use your exhale, use this movement, the circle, to unwind through the pelvic bowl, through the sacral region. So when I teach in-person classes, we would have music playing now. So it's a bit tricky with Zoom. But I will share with this recording a playlist that you could also add if you want to come back to this practice. Changing direction with your circle. So when we bring music into our asana practice, and particularly music that invokes the different goddesses, it can really add another layer. It's also nice to sometimes practice with quietness. So choosing for you what feels good. So as you're feeling this flow, feeling the breath connecting, we really want to surrender into this flow. You might notice areas that feel a bit stuck, a bit stiff. Use the exhale to release any tension. And just let yourself feel this beautiful Saraswati flow. And then we're going to gradually spiral the circle up through the spine. Notice maybe through the belly button region, the solar plexus. Just feel the sensations in the body. So we want to notice those areas that are stuck. We breathe into them and we let go. Maybe with quite a fierce exhale if we need. Or maybe we're feeling more gentle and just letting go. Bringing our circle up to the chest, to the heart space. Inhale forward. Exhale, circling back and around. Beautiful. So really noticing the sensations, changing direction, feeling the heart space. So these practices with the goddesses, it's a devotional practice, and our devotion resides within our heart, our love for ourselves, our love for the divine feminine, for the goddess. Yeah, our love for our creativity, for our body, for our innate wisdom, for our truth. So really feeling your heart opening with each breath. Beautiful. Coming in towards the center. Let's lower the chin to the chest, taking our head side to side. As we just warm up here a little through the neck. Really noticing here the throat, the neck. On the next exhale, take the head all the way back and around. Supporting the neck if you need, just going really slowly. And really engaging the breath. The key with our asana practice is that the movement and the breath are aligned. If ever we find we're holding our breath, let out a big sigh, a big release. Beautiful. Next time the head comes forward, lifting the head, we're going to roll through the shoulders. Just noticing the neck region. Many of us are doing far more work on computers than probably is humanly desirable. So the neck and the shoulders can be a real place of tension. So really feel into this space, just letting your shoulders, your head move, letting the body move. So I give guidance for different movements, but the invitation is to just let your body flow. So we're going to now just come to do some side body stretches. So just moving like a windmill, just raising an arm up, taking the other hand to the floor, gently coming into a side stretch. Exhaling as you move into the stretch. Inhale, coming up. Exhale to the other side. Notice where the body feels any constriction. This is where our asana practice is so beautiful, to open the flow of the energy, this flow of Shakti, which is the divine feminine. So this Shakti personified by each of these goddesses. And here we're feeling the flowing river of Saraswati within our body, within our breath, our movement. Beautiful. Coming to center. We're going to come up to cat-cow position. So all fours, knees below the hips, hands below the shoulders. Inhale, roll through the tailbone, looking up towards the ceiling. Exhale, tailbone tucks under. Roll through each vertebra along the spine. Inhale, coming up. Exhale. So one of the goddesses, Kali, can be a beautiful goddess whenever we find any constriction. the fierceness of her exhale. And as we do this, when we bring Kali into our Saraswati practice, we're actually bringing in Matangi, who is the tantric version of Saraswati. So all these faces of the goddess morph and move. So when we notice something in our body, we can call on another goddess. So it's Kali, her fierceness. If we've got stuckness in the back of the heart, or it may be more the gentle flowing river of Saraswati. So we adapt the practice with whatever we discover in our body at the time. Beautiful. Coming to center, let's take our knees apart, wide knees. Stretching forward with the hands. We're going to feel that stretch, and on the exhale, coming back to sit towards the heels. That's a wide knee child's pose. Forehead towards the floor. Hands stretching out forwards. Just taking a few deep breaths here. Feeling this wide hip stretch, breathing into the body. Notice the hips. So as women, we can often hold so much tension in our hips. So this yoga is very much about hips, hip opening, hip circling. Just taking a few deep breaths, and on the exhale, letting go. Beautiful. And coming forward on the hands, inhale, coming up, exhale. So the knees are still apart. We lower the groin towards the floor and we look up towards the ceiling. Feeling a stretch from the groin all the way up to the throat and to the third eye. Inhale, we come back. Exhale, sitting back towards the heels, forehead on the floor. Inhale, coming up. Exhale into this beautiful stretch. So we as women have meridians that connect the womb space to the throat and to the third eye. So this is our Saraswati channel. Just notice that stretch. Inhale, coming back. So you can always pause in a stretch, either back at the heels for a few breaths, or then coming up again and into this forward stretch. So as you do this movement, just imagining this goddess Saraswati. She's often depicted sitting astride a swan, the graceful, beautiful swan. She's often seen holding the veena, which is a musical instrument. She's the goddess of singing, music, poetry, beauty. We're just feeling that flow as you move. Beautiful. Coming back to the heels. The knees may be a little wider, so if you need to bring them in a little, just for comfort. Just taking a few breaths. And just notice the body. Notice any subtle energy moving through the body. And slowly we're going to come up to lie on our back. We're going to bring our soles of our feet together, knees apart, lying back on the floor, and just bringing our hands onto our belly in what's known as yoni mudra. So the thumbs are together. You might need to just look at me to see this. Thumbs together, index fingers pointing down, and placing the thumbs approximately at the belly button. Beautiful. Placing your hands on your belly. Just taking a few breaths here. Taking a few deep breaths down to the belly, feeling your womanly creative center under your hands. Just letting the knees fall out to the side, so you may be feeling a stretch through the inner thighs. Feeling your back body fully supported, your head supported, so you can relax through the shoulders. Just taking a few deep, nourishing breaths here. Noticing anything that's moving in the body, the breath, sensations. Beautiful. And very gently, when you're ready, just rolling onto your side. You can either come to sitting, or if you wish, you could continue to sit on lie on your side there, just whatever's comfortable. So I'm just going to just show a few more slides and just actually show some of the imagery now we've just done these practices. So this is the image of Durga. So the black and white imagery I find really helpful for our practices. There are many images you can find if you Google any of the names of these goddesses. Many images, a lot from India and many artists' interpretations. So this one comes from Charles Ellick, and it's in the Sally Kempton Awakening Shakti book. So there she is with her weapons, and the demons are the two characters she's standing on. So if you see, there's these little men with their swords. So the demons in the myths are the egotistical dictator leaders, which many, and as I interpret these myths, you could say we're living in a time of. So Durga is definitely a goddess for this time, but she also, the symbolism can be external, as in the external demons, but very importantly for our yoga practice, we have our own ego and our own egoic forces. So if you imagine Durga, your higher self, your highest feminine self, and her tools and her weapons is able to help us deal with our egoic demons. So this was Saraswati. So there she is on the swan, so her Veena. She's also got the mala beads, as well as in her left hand she has a book, and she's playing her Veena. So these images, again, as I said, the personification helps us through our own visualization to be able to see this inner feminine form, and then to be able to bring this into our own imaginal realm. So this was one of my students' quotes, and I love this photo. I just wanted to share it with you. This was teaching at Seven Sisters a few years ago, with a whole large bell tent full of women spilling out to the outer regions. And a woman took this photo while we were practicing with Kali, and I was so struck by what the camera's magic did. We were doing a posture embodying Kali, which is holding our arms in Kali Mudra, which is like a sword of truth. And through the chair pose, which you may know in yoga, we're chopping through our egoic thoughts and bringing the change we wanted in our life. So that was a beautiful image of the collective feminine practicing together. And this was one of my students who's been coming for a few years now to classes. Invoking the qualities of the goddess brings a layer of richness to the practice, helping us to recognize and understand the characteristics of the goddess within ourselves and embody true feminine power. So I'm having a bit of trouble here with my slides, actually. Oops. So just very briefly, and you can always contact me if you want to know more, but on the 16th of November, I'm launching my first 21-day devotional home yoga practice course, which I've been working on through this year. And it's going to be 21 days of invoking Goddess, Durga. So we'll be doing Tantra flow and yin yoga practices, meditation, mudra, mantra, yantra, all of the things I've mentioned here. And building each day our home practice, because my intention is to really support women in their home yoga. So I suppose the gift of COVID has been studios closing, but in some ways the blessing is that it's bringing our yoga back home, which yoga was always practiced at home prior to studios. There is a beauty in practicing together in person, and we will come back to those, I'm sure, in time. But for now, I feel really being called to share these practices online so we can bring and awaken the divine feminine. Our world really needs it, and Durga is going to be a great goddess to launch with. So I did want to also do a meditation, but I'm aware I offered any questions. If anyone's got any, I've probably got time for one question. If there's any burning questions, please let me know, and you could type it in chat, or if you wanted, you could come on verbally. Just know that you will be recorded. So you could do it on chat if you want to stay private. And if there's no questions now, I'm not seeing any coming up. Let's just stop that share. Oh, hold on, let's see. Yes, so the Durga practice, we're talking about the Durga course. So the Durga, I've just had a question, is the practice energetic for daytime or for evening? Beautiful question. There is, so there's some, the Sana practice, there are some dynamic practices, and there are some yin practices. So in my yoga, I like to do the more dynamic practices in the morning, and in the evening do the more yin and restorative. And just to be aware, many of the day's practices aren't asana, although you can do a class from a previous day if it was an asana. Some of the days are simply self-inquiry or meditation. So you can pick and choose. So some days, if you're menstruating, or if it's new moon, you might want to do the yin yoga. And then if it's a full moon and you're ovulating and you're a maiden, as in you're a young woman with lots of energy, then the dynamic practice. So my intention is, this course is 21 days, but you'll have access to it for the year. So you will be able to pick and choose when you do the practices and how. So I hope that answers the question. Beautiful. So yeah, any questions more to this, please, you can email me, and I will send a link for more information and bookings when I send this out. But let's finish with, love you too, Tash. Thank you. We're going to finish with a little meditation. So it's with Goddess Lakshmi. So coming back to your seated position. So from our meditation, we will finish the session today. So you can, if you need to go off to work, you do, taking your time if you can to take the blessings with you. Or if you can, do some more yoga, stay resting to really absorb the practice. So seated position, using any props if you need. Closing the eyes. Just noticing the flow of your breath. Breathing in through the nose And if you wish, a little sigh or a sound. Or sometimes when we come towards the end of our practice, a more steady breath in and out of the nose is more appropriate. Just notice this beautiful breath. This breath that is always with us. Taking it a little deeper if you need to, down into the belly. Sometimes we can find ourselves shallow breathing. We just bring our consciousness into a deeper breath to really receive this prana, the energy that travels with the breath. So we can receive this prana, this gift of our beautiful world. So Lakshmi is the goddess of abundance. In abundance is often interpreted as material wealth, but where her true gift resides is in the spiritual wealth, as well as the nature, the abundance of nature, Mother Earth. So I want you, as you're breathing, I invite you to imagine Mother Nature. Imagine you're seated in nature, whether that's by a river or by a tree or in your most favorite garden. So just bring your imagination into a beautiful garden. Maybe it's a garden of your own design. Maybe it's something that's familiar in this world that you've been to before. And really imagine as much as you can through all your senses. Maybe feel the sunshine on the body, feel the smell of the blossoms, listening to the birds and the bees, feeling the sense of touch of the breeze or where the body's touching the earth. You may even taste, have a sense of taste of nature. And then I invite you, as you breathe in, breathing in the breath and breathing in this beautiful energy of Mother Nature. And as you exhale, just realize and imagine you're letting go of carbon dioxide, of anything that doesn't serve you. And you're letting that go into this pool of Mother Nature, where the trees will receive your carbon dioxide and gift to you the oxygen. So we breathe in the oxygen and we let go of the carbon dioxide, breathing in the oxygen, letting go. So this carbon dioxide, just imagine it symbolic of anything that doesn't serve you, anything that no longer you want in your body, in your life. And we're letting it go. You can even imagine the process of composting, Mother Earth's nature, receiving any waste that doesn't serve us. And through the magic of composting, it gets transmuted and transformed into a rich, fertile soil for growth. So just spend a few more moments. If the symbol of it being oxygen and carbon dioxide resonates, stay with that. Or if the prana, the sense of this energy field, of this immense Mother Nature's power that we're breathing in, receiving it however you experience it. And on the exhale, just letting go of our small self so that we can really start to feel this innate truth. We are all one and we are so connected. Beautiful. We're going to finish just with a little mudra, just bringing your hands to your chest in prayer position. So palms together at the heart. So this is known as lotus mudra. So it's the beautiful flowering of our heart and our wisdom. As we inhale, the hands start to raise and the middle three fingers start to open. So the thumbs and the little fingers stay together. So the hands rise and let the thumbs gently caress the third eye, coming up to that height. And then exhale, the hands start to lower and the flower starts to close, coming down to the heart. Inhale, opening. And exhale, drawing this wisdom down into our heart. Inhale, the flowering of our heart opening. Doing a few more beautiful lotus flowers. You can bring a little smile onto the lips. Even if we don't feel happy or joyous, just simply bringing a little smile to the lips. Brings in this beautiful inner smile. It's like we're smiling to our heart. Beautiful. Let the hands come to rest on the lap. And with the eyes closed, just taking a few breaths. Just noticing, how does the body feel from when we first came to this space an hour ago? Is there anything that has really struck you? Anything that's really resonated? We'll finish with 3 Oms. So Om is the seed mantra of Goddess Tara. So it's the sacred sound of the universe. So let's close our eyes. You can bring your hands to rest on your heart if you wish. Tara is the goddess of compassion. So may these Oms connect you to your deepest self-compassion and also awaken compassion for others, particularly those who may push our buttons, who may be very different to us. Our world needs a lot more compassion. So taking a nice deep breath in. Thank you, beautiful women. Namaste. Hope you have a beautiful day.